Hey everyone, Ampro Engineering here. This is the Tamiya Toyota Hilux High-Lift, which shares the same chassis as the Ford F350 High-Lift as well as the Toyota Tundra. The chassis overall I've really enjoyed. I purchased this truck, I think it was the same month it actually came out. Since then I have really not been nice to this truck. In fact, if we look a little closer at it, let's flip it over a little bit here. Actually, it looks pretty good on camera, but I assure you, it is not. This truck, boy, it looks really great on camera. This truck has been on so many hikes with me, it's ridiculous. It has been on trails in Yosemite from Pothole Dome to Half Dome. This truck has been everywhere. Therefore, it's gotten a lot of wear and tear, and probably one of the most recent upgrades I did to this truck was the Untitled 4-link suspension. So we can see here, if I pull this tire right about there, it's got considerable travel. This is just about 4 inches, which is double, roughly, what the factory suspension was capable of. I purchased these RC 4-wheel drive red springs. Let me grab them for you. As you can see, they are quite hammered for good reason. Again, I did mention this truck has been just everywhere. These springs were the best upgrade I've ever made to this truck. In fact, since the 4-link, I've actually liked it less and less. And the reason for it has nothing to do with the 4-link, but has to do with the design that I'm trying to keep here on this truck. So I like the smaller tires on this truck, and it's called the Toyota Hilux High-Lift. But even the way you see it is lowered considerably from stock. In fact, if I take the suspension, see, that looks about right. I think that's really how it should have been. So, that's the look I was going for, but with the 4-link, you are going to need a little bit more height. Recently, I picked up a RC 4-wheel drive Trailfinder 2, and that is the truck that I'm going to kind of give this appearance to. I want to make this my trail truck. I'm not really a crawler. I prefer the scale appearance, and I like the fact that this truck's transmission driveline is completely indestructible. So we're going to remove the front 4-link. Allow me to explain myself why I want to ditch the 4-link. I have installed it incorrectly. On purpose, mind you. Let me explain something real quick about the Untitled 4-link suspension. I should get the instruction manual and explain the installation here, but I can't because one was not provided. Now, as an engineer, I already know that I don't need an instruction manual. That's a given. So it'll take me at least 2-3 times longer than the average person to put them together because I don't need the instructions. So it should have come as a no-brainer on this. But because of the length differences on some of the pieces here, and it was mainly the hardware, I'm like, where the heck does the hardware go? It was kind of confusing assembling the suspension. What wasn't confusing was the recommendation, or I shouldn't say the place that you're supposed to put the steering servo, which is above the front axle. You can see here, my servo is mounted inside the frame rails, which is, again, different from where it's supposed to be mounted on the factory mounting locations down here for rear wheel steering as well. And you can see that I have some Untitled lockouts, so I don't have rear wheel steering. The problem is, with the 4-link setup, as you turn left and right, the body will actually shift. It's hard to see here, but the axle and the body will shift, and it drives me absolutely crazy because as you're driving this truck around, the truck is crab crawling the entire time. So the plan is here, can I put the 4-link only on the rear, put the front suspension back on, and also I'm going to pull out the entire light, sound, and vibration kit. The reason for that is I guess it's has a couple of reasons for it. Problem number one, this truck has been yay deep in water. And the reason that's an issue is because right around yay is the entire light and sound unit. So anybody who owns one of these knows they cost $10 billion, so they're very expensive. I don't want to destroy it, so I think it's probably a probably a bad idea to keep it in this vehicle, but that's not the entire reason I'm getting rid of it. The throttle response on this, I guess we'll call it the speed control portion of the control unit, is horrible. Weirdly enough, when you accelerate, sometimes it will take a split second to actually move. So you want to do something kind of slowly, and you'll push the throttle, and it's like not moving, so you add a little more gas, and the truck just jumps. So it does kind of weird things. Anybody who's owned one may know what I'm talking about. I thought it was this one initially, and a colleague of mine at the time had the F350 with the same light and sound kit, and his did it the exact same way. It's hard to explain, and I tried videoing it, but you really couldn't tell because you couldn't see what my thumb was doing on the throttle of the two-stick radio versus what the car was doing. So there's been a lot of issues that have actually made me not want to continue to drive this truck and actually make me lean toward the Trailfinder version. And I've discovered that it's not the truck's fault, it's what I've done to it. I'll keep a full light set on it so it will look the exact same way. The plan is also to repaint the body. You might be saying, well, it looks wonderful, and that's the beauty of the camera. These stripes are decals that I cut out myself, and they look beautiful for many, many years, but now they're losing some of the adhesion, and they're kind of like the silver here is kind of shrunken, and it's peeling up, and the copper on the hood has a little lump in it, so it's doing weird things, and I have some other plans for the body. I went ahead and did a little bit of, well, breaking the truck. It doesn't work anymore, but I took it apart, and this is where we're at. It's been years since I've actually seen the bare chassis, so I'm like, wow, it's kind of looks like a chassis. We'll look at these leaf springs in a minute. I have determined that I do want to pull the forelink because there's another way that you can mount the rear leaf to where there's actually a drop leaf at the back. I don't know if that's what it's called, but RC 4-wheel drive makes it, and basically it allows one side of the leaf to come off of the chassis and give you a bit more articulation. The main reason is I just don't like how these plates look on here. You know, if this were properly forelinked on a maybe a little bit of a different chassis, a lower chassis, this might look a little bit tidier. So the way it sits right now, it's just, to me, not worth keeping the forelink on the truck. And that, I think, is the path I'm going to go. And I did pull off the body. There's this tray that sits right about here or so. And this is where the body would mount on the sides. On top of this, let me show you what goes on top of that. So here's the inside of the body. And this is the MFC 02 that sits right in here. I really like to have interiors on my cars, and it's kind of tough to do that when one simply won't fit. And on top of that, you can see the 30 miles of electrical that's required. And that's not all of it. That's some more electrical. Where are they? Here's the speaker box, and there's a vibration kit there as well. So, you know, I'm really kind of happy going down this path because this truck, its original purpose, or the reason I bought it, was to, you know, allow me to really beat on this and not my Bruiser. At the time, the Bruiser had not been re-released. And, you know, it ended up being kind of too pretty, too high-end, too extravagant for me to do that. So now I think I'm finally going to do things I wanted to do, like take the transmission, shove it up a bit more, because that's a major benefit, considering if you see down here how low the transfer case sits. I don't like this. So if I can move this up about 10 centimeters, maybe a little bit more, that would change the dynamic of the truck infinitely. And removal of the forelink will be not nearly as apparent. Yes, I'm going to lose articulation, but I never had a problem, you know, at least the way I drove the truck. I never had a problem before with the articulation. I did want to show you let's see here. These are the stock springs. If you can see, it's like they came out of a river. These are the RC 4-wheel drive red soft springs. I've actually seen a lot of negative reviews of these. I love them. If you have this truck, you need these springs. I don't know why people tend to dislike them. I'm gonna go ahead and sand these down a little bit and shoot them with a matte black, simply to make them not look like this, I guess. I mean, it's scale. I think people would spend a lot of time to make their springs look like this. Kind of a shame almost. I'm here scratching my head because I know one of the biggest problems with this chassis is the placement of the transfer case. It's really, really low. So my plan is to raise the transmission up. Very easy. Lots of people have done it. The problem is the body, the hood's right about here and the windshield's here, which means if I raise this up 20 millimeters, this hits the body. So you'd have to take this and not have it there anymore. I have an idea. Yes, I have an idea, but that would involve taking the motor, putting it in the front somehow. Maybe there's room on the bottom, which means the motor would be here, but that's where the servo goes, so then the servo would have to not be there anymore. Oh man, I should have just left it alone.